In this video, I will explain to you the real reasons why the government creates inflation. To be clear, inflation is an increase or expansion in the money supply. It is not an increase in prices. Prices changing in an upward direction is a result or an effect of monetary inflation. On one hand, we have the nominal reasons why the government creates inflation, and on the other hand, we have the real reasons why government creates inflation. The nominal reasons why the government creates inflation is one, to stimulate economic growth, as they say. But this is a misconception. The economist John Maynard Keynes said it is the demand side that drives the economy. In other words, if we give more people money and they spend it, then this will create and stimulate economic growth. But the truth is, the economy can only grow from production because production has to precede consumption. So what can't be produced can never be consumed. And just purely giving people money and printing more pieces of paper does not produce any new goods for an economy. There is no new material wealth created for society. Another reason why the government creates inflation is to reduce unemployment in the short term. But why is unemployment a bad thing? Why is it better if everyone's employed digging and filling holes rather than temporarily leaving the economy to think, produce, invest, and create something new that people will actually want? This idea of employment is a sham. Now, of course, during the Great Depression, 1 in 4 people were unemployed, but that's also due to the significant regulations placed on trying to keep wages up. And when you artificially impose higher wages than what the market would offer, then you're going to have people unemployed. Another reason why the government creates inflation is the inflation tax, or in other words, finance debt when tax revenues are insufficient. This means that rather than taxing the citizenry directly, we're going to print the money, monetize the debt in order to pay for government projects. The result of printing this new money is devaluing every single monetary unit, meaning that the purchasing power has decreased. People don't want money for money's sake. They want the power of the purchase. They want to buy real goods and services. This includes rent. This includes food. This includes material well-being. When it costs more pieces of paper to buy the same exact things, you're not richer or wealthier when you have to pay more money or when you have more money. It's only when you can actually buy goods and services, real wealth in the economy, that are you considered wealthy. And the last nominal reason why the government creates inflation is this fear of deflation or deflation phobia. They think that deflation can lead to economic stagnation. So in other words, we need to print more money at a 2% inflation target rate. Why not 3%? Why not 4%? Why not 1%? To make up for this potential stagnation. But this is missing the point completely. Now, the real reasons why the government creates inflation is obviously to benefit themselves before the citizenry. The hardest punishments and illegal crimes you can commit is counterfeiting money, because that's the whole point of the government, is to have a monopoly on the counterfeiting of money. So you can't compete with the government and what it does. Also, you can't rob from people unless you're the government, in which case then you have a monopoly on robbing people's income in the name of taxation. So inflation is a roundabout means to, 1, take people's money to pay for your own interests and line your own pockets, and 2, to socially engineer society. How else are you going to plan and determine where people are going to build their buildings, live their lives in the form of zoning laws and housing regulations, building code regulations, running the streets? In essence, when you have the monopoly on inflating the money supply and you can use the power of money to pay for what you want, then in essence, you can militarize society. You pay for the indoctrination of millions of Americans, and you can bribe them to fight in your own wars. That is why all wars are considered to be central bankers' and politicians' wars. And as Randolph Bourne famously said, war is the health of the state. When you have control of the money and you can pay people to fight and die and blow up other people, then that's very attractive to some people. But having this power over other people's means that you're not free. As long as there is state power power and monetary control, then the state in essence has control over your energy. Because we receive money for the value we create in the world, if the government can take some of that, then they have a higher claim to your earnings and energy than you do. And at the extreme case of inflation, this produces dependency, where the warfare state has to provide for those in need. That is why you always hear politicians talking about what we must do. But this is just a collectivization of society. Making people dependent on the state by pauperizing them has been very effective at taking over society. In fact, there is a quote ascribed to Lenin that he said, "Inflation is a great way of undermining capitalism." And more nefariously, we have this effect of moral hazard, where because we have an inflationary environment, time preference is heightened, meaning we prefer the immediate present moment over the future. And this manifests in a culture that is not thinking in long terms, decades from now, or even centuries from now. They're thinking about next week, tomorrow, or how to get by today. So this is not a society that is producing great works of art because of the monetary environment. And ultimately, the way to change this environment is to, one, end the Federal Reserve or the federal bank that is producing this, two, repeal legal tender laws, and three, freedom. Have freedom in the money you use, in the banks you're allowed to participate in the ways we can transact and interact with the rest of the world. Freedom is the solution to counteracting inflationary governments. Until we have free money from the political nation state, we won't really be free. If you like this video, please leave a like and subscribe. Please check out the Menger Institute, where we teach students all about economics, philosophy, and civilization. Thank you for watching. Peace and be free.